This is a little job I picked up from a neighboring fire department, a Stewart and Stevenson 6x6. They got it from the military. The military wanted to make sure that they painted it and got it in service by next spring. They had to paint it and they had to get the camouflage painted and covered up. So they brought it to my place and had me paint it. They pressure washed before they brought it up. This is some of the lines on the roof here are. I'm also going to clean up some of the seam seal that's kind of gobbed on there. Looks kind of ugly. I'll clean that up before I paint it. Getting the last few things taken off here. I did take the grab handles and the mirrors off the cab. Take the air cleaner off. Start masking it up. I did prop the cab forward to make it easier or make it possible to paint that lower section of the cab in the back white. If I didn't prop it up, there's no way I'd get that white. There's just not enough room to get a spray gun in there. Masking up the bottom part of the cab to keep all the paint off the motor. Try and get as clean a job as I can. Keep the overspray down. I am painting this with a farm implement white and a farm implement black. I believe it's made by Krylon. It's not a typical automotive paint, but it's really good for fire trucks and anything that's going to be mashing through the forest, putting out fires. Not a lot of overspray, hardly any, as a matter of fact. I mean, there's no cloud coming off this. I had to kind of be careful with that as you're lowering or taking the block out of the cab. It wants to bleed off, so you got to pump it up quite a ways and go jump on the bed and grab that block out of there. This stuff goes on really thick, one coat, and it covers everything. I had to put scaffolding up to get to the front part of this roof here. It's just so tall. I think it's close to 10 foot tall. I didn't measure it, but just by the looks of it. I could start the truck up and use the air over hydraulic system. If you start the truck up, it pressurizes the air system, and you can push on a little silver button that's down there on the bottom of those. I don't know if you can see it down the bottom of the screen there. And it'll pump the cab up for you so you don't have to use this hand lever. But I didn't want to deal with the exhaust in the shop, so I sat there and pumped this hand pump for I don't even know how long to get that cab to tilt all the way forward. I did spray the front bumper black before I tilted the cab forward. That's why the front of the cab is masked up right there. And then tilt everything forward, mask everything back up. Of course, lower. That's a spare tire carrier right there. The spare tire, the tires in this thing are so heavy, you need something to pick it up and lower it down. The hardest part of this job was running this area here. There's so many little things that I wanted to get black paint on so it looked real nice. But it's all packed together and you can't really take it apart. Spraying black everywhere. That little section on the air cleaner box, right where I'm painting right now, I masked that center section up. It's got instructions for the dipsticks on, I believe, the engine and transmission, which one's which. I didn't want to have to take a picture and try and paint that back on there later, so I went ahead and masked that little circle in the middle. The back part of the bed, you can see how the black just sprays out real thick. It's not a super shiny paint, it's like a semi-gloss when it dries. And I didn't have to paint the entire bed, the top part of the bed, because there's a big poly tank that's going to go on here. I think they said a 2,000 gallon poly tank that's going to hold water for fighting fires. I didn't take the taillights out, I just masked them off. I could have taken the time to take them out. It would have been a little bit cleaner job, but it would have been a lot of work to get these out of there. It's hard to get to all the screws, nuts, and bolts. The paper there on the back with the blue tape around it, that's an air supply in case you have a trailer. This truck and trailer has air brakes in it, so you need an air supply back there. Having this light so I can see what I'm doing underneath this bed. If I decide to start painting more cars in this shop, I'm going to have to add more lights down low so that I can see everything I'm doing. Very time consuming to get in these areas and paint everything that you can see so that when you pull it out in the sunlight, you don't see a lot of green popping out at you. You can see the spot of black in the back of my head there where I backed up into some paint. I wasn't intending on painting this much of it, but once I got into it and started painting, I had 2 gallons of black paint, which after reduced, it turned into, I think, 2.5 gallons of black paint. And just figured I would go for it and get as much done as possible. Had some fun climbing around underneath it, checking it out as I was painting it. Of course, needing a lot more light to see what I'm doing. It's kind of a good thing that there wasn't a lot of overspray with this paint, or I wouldn't be able to see anything. Painting the rims, masking all the studs for those rims, so when they go to change a tire later, if they get a flat, they can actually get the lug nuts off of there. And the finished product, got the grab handles and the mirrors back on. It's all back together. White cab and a black truck. Not too bad for a farm implement paint. I didn't paint over those little chrome handles. Those are actually stainless steel handles for those little boxes there. I cleaned those up. They were painted over. They were like a camo color, so I cleaned them up and bolted them back on there. The back 5 feet is not going to be covered in poly tank, so I painted that back 5 feet of the bed. Then you can see that little green circle where it has the instructions for the dipsticks and the fill levels and all that. Not bad. It's kind of fun to do. Something I haven't done before. I've driven these, but I haven't really been in and underneath them and looked and see how they're built. So it was kind of fun to have it here. Until next time, go make something.